Shemai, welcome back to the latest episode of the Be Better podcast. Thank you, as always, to our regular listeners. There's a few of you. I keep meeting you, which is nice. Keep doing it. Appreciate it. If you haven't given us a review, you know how it works. Come on, please. 5 stars. Surely it's got to be worth that. Other than that, we'll rip into it. With me today, I have got Mike from Brightly. Kia ora. G'day. Mike, how's it going?
It's going good. Kia ora, Tim.
So tell us, who are you? What do you do?
Mike Carroll, I'm the founder and principal consultant with Brightly. We're a purpose-led technology company based up in Tamaki Makaurau.
Very cool. And I'm trying to remember, I think the first time we met was at a B Corp event in Auckland. It was like, I think Ian Harvey from Collective Intelligence ran that roadshow. And I remember meeting you in that room. And I'm trying to remember when was that? That must have been like 2018, maybe?
Yeah, pretty early on. Yeah,
wow.
It's a while back.
It's a while back.
Time flies.
Because you just started the bit. I think you'd either just started or you were like, yeah, we're going to give this a go around about then, weren't you?
Yeah, it was the very beginning.
Nice. So you do IT tech stuff. When people say that, like I've got a mate of mine who's in data warehousing. I'm like, great. So can you help me fix my computer? No, I don't do that. IT and tech, it's quite easy to offend people in your industry because it's like, no, we don't do that. So what sort of things are you helping people with on the day-to-day so that we get a bit more of a understanding?
Yeah, awesome question. So the way that we describe it, we help people with their technology strategy, their governance, the cybersecurity, and then projects, as well as managed operations. So essentially, we're an IT managed service provider. So work with companies where, in some cases, they don't have any internal IT resources at all. So we're their entire IT department. In other cases, we're just kind of providing additional resource or expertise around internal teams. And in some cases, that looks like, with some organizations, we might have a virtual CIO type role where we're providing that kind of real strategic leadership and guidance. And in other cases, might be right down to just kind of boots on the ground, something to help with the day-to-day IT support and everything in between. What we, someone helps to clarify that what we don't do. So we're not a team of developers or web designers. We don't do a lot of coding. So really about helping people get the most out of the technology platforms and understand, how they can improve their day-to-day lives.
Nice. And what's the sort of typical organization that you're helping then as a tech for good? Who do you hang out with mainly?
Yeah, we work with an awesome range of companies across the both for purpose and commercial sector. So around 20 to 25% of our customers are not-for-profit or social enterprises. So we work with the likes of Heart Foundation, Sustainable Coastlines, Gun to Table, awesome organizations doing really great work out there. And then on the commercial side, it's everything from SaaS companies, so companies scaling up tech, through to construction firms, professional services firms, dev companies, whole range of other industries. And I think what really sets them apart for the most part for our customers is that they tend to really care about their employees' experience of technology, the customer service and the approach that's taken to it. And so although they might not all be in that for-purpose sector, they often share the values or share a common approach into how we do things.
Nice. So can you tell me why Microsoft Teams is so shit? and is it inbuilt to not work with Macs? Because I run on a Mac. Every time someone's like, "Oh, can we do the meeting on Teams?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to." Yeah,
let's give it a go.
And then I'm 10 minutes late because it can't log in. And I've downloaded the Teams app on my desktop. I've just given up trying to make that work. So I now just have to log in on my browser every time. I'm just like, Bill, you've got a lot of cash. Although I was talking to someone yesterday, they said maybe it's because I think apparently Microsoft have just been asked to pay a whole bunch of tax by the IRS in the US, backdated.
They've still got plenty in the kitty.
Well,
it's not
so
going to put a dent in that.
Could someone fix Teams? And then the other one, I was on. We've got like a LinkedIn Pro account, and we're just about to do some outbound sales activity. So watch this space if you think you should be a B Corp. You're probably gonna get an email from me pretty soon. So I was trying to download some stuff, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You can add 25 contacts at a time to a list. And so I got on the chat support. Hey, you're number 1 in the queue. Okay, great. You're number 0 in the queue. We've closed the support for today. Okay, so I sent them the email, and then, like 2 days later, oh yeah, no, sorry, you can only transfer 25 at a time. It's like I just emailed back and said it's 2024, and I pay you money for this. Anyway, rant over on technology. This is why I'm convinced that AI is not going to take over the world. Not yet. I keep
Yeah,
wait. I like to. I've got my little Google Nest speaker next to me. I give it a little pat and stroke it and tell it I love it every day, just in case it becomes my overlord. Um,
yeah. Keep on the
so
right side of them for sure.
definitely keep on the right side. But I'm still firmly convinced that AI will take over, because I think hasn't Elon just put the first neural link in someone? So any second now, it's Terminators are going to start come wading through. But I'm convinced that the AI will take over all our jobs, and then after a day, it will go. Actually, your jobs are all shit. You
Don't
will
want to
do the
do this
work for
anymore.
us. We're going to the beach and drinking some beers and hanging out. So I think it's going to go full circle pretty quick.
Yeah, it's going to
Um,
be interesting to see how that all unfolds for sure.
mhm. So what's typically like the biggest tech challenge or the biggest value add that, because I think it's I guess I don't know, tech for a lot of people. I mean, there's probably a ton of things that I could do better with my tech that would increase my efficiency. But I think quite often, particularly Kiwis, are a bit like, oh, spending money on something to maybe improve it. Not convinced. So yeah, what's typically the thing that you can do that will help, particularly the purpose-driven ones, get a big return, or let them take time off having to think about bloody passwords or updating software, or whatever it is. Yeah, what's typically the big thing that you'd recommend people look into?
Yeah, a lot of it's a combination of those things. So the organizations we work with, they know what their purpose is, they know what they do well, and so often it's about unlocking how technology can help them do that. So it's not trying to change what they're doing, but it's just working out, is there things we can automate? Are there ways that we can help with that? There's a big element just around education where people are often put off by technology, and it's seen as, Teams is just painful, or Zoom never understands me. And so a lot of it's around just that education and giving people the confidence to give things a go and sort of work through it, as well as really helping provide clarity. Large organizations, it's often about sort of there's so many choices out there. Where do they start? Which technologies do they invest in? How do they get the most out of those? And then we've got a few where the yeah, like you say, just removing some of that day-to-day pain and ensuring that they've got the right kind of whether processes in place where it's helping onboard and offboard team members and just getting all of those things in place so that teams are not feeling frustrated by the technology, that they, when they join a new team or a new organization, they have a great experience, and throughout that kind of life cycle, that technology is something that they feel comforted, comfortable using, supported when they're using it, and able to get the most out of it, really.
Yeah, I remember when I quit the medical device world and I joined a firm of sort of surveyors and engineers, and I was thinking, oh wow, this is going to be great, like big company, because I was mainly a standalone rep in New Zealand, with the nearest head office was in Sydney, or there was a small team in New Zealand. So like IT support was remote in Sydney, and we'd always get sent the worst laptops and what have you. So I was like, wow, this is my first time like working in a big office with like an IT support team. Like it's gonna be great. And I just remember, yeah, day one, uh, they gave me a laptop, but it didn't work. Like there was something wrong with it. It couldn't connect to the internet or something. And they didn't have any phones. So I was given literally like a 1992 Motorola flip phone. And I'm like, this is day one,
They're back in fashion now, Tim. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, full circle. But it's kind of like, this is day one, and I'm a technically a senior leader in this organization. And we offer project management as a service. And this is my experience on, like, they didn't have business cards for me. It was like the whole thing was kind of like, and in fact, that when I mean, even worse, I turned up and I was like, hi, I'm Tim, I'm the new general manager for the South Island. And they're like, sorry, yeah. And I'm like, well, today's my first day. I I don't know anything. There's like no one there to greet me. There'd be nothing planned for the first, yeah. So the onboarding experience for employees, like, yeah, just hiring them isn't the starting point, or isn't the end
Yeah,
point rather. It's like,
totally.
yeah, you need to make that seamless. What's the is, if there was one absolute killer app or piece of tech that is just the Mutt's nuts. Is there one that you're like hands down like this is the one thing that everyone should go and buy today as a
It,
cool
it
or time saver?
it's probably a slightly boring answer, but probably the kind of key recommendation for people is actually a password management tool. And so, like, I think security is top of mind for a lot of people these days. There's a massive number of scams and you know, people out there trying to gain access to your accounts and getting some good password management in place, although it's not the most exciting part of technology, is actually a massive help. And the tool we use most often is 1Password, but there's other tools out there like Dashlane and that sort of thing. And I think the practice around people using good passwords, using unique passwords for different systems are made massively easier by having a good password tool in place.
Mm.
And that frustration around logging into everything, if you're using lots of different systems and they're not integrated, it just makes that whole process a whole load easier. So yeah, that's probably where I would start, even though it's not the most super exciting one out there. There's a lot of awesome automation tools, and obviously the AI stuff's coming on real fast and doing some really cool stuff. But I often like to start with get your house in order before you start adding the fancy stuff around the edges.
That is definitely an area of weakness for me. Now that my team is increasing, I'm like, yeah, we just we share the passwords.
No, don't do it.
Sorry, change that today. Lesson learned. By the time
Yeah,
this gets out to air, they will all be
yeah.
changed. So no, you won't be able to hack me, unless someone's already hacked my Zoom account, and it's yeah, who knows. Um, no, that's a good tip. Yeah, I mean, it's occasionally I get the random cold email of you and your team need to invest in cybersecurity. I'm like, mate, it's me and a Google platform.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have much that people can steal, but I mean, yeah, we do. We probably should take it a bit more seriously. Um, so yeah, talking of AI though, what's your take on that? Like we've had a go with ChatGPT. We've used it to maybe go like here's one social post. Can you credit 5 different versions in different styles to see what that does? Beyond that though, I haven't really had the time to dig in and go, well, how does AI change my life? But yes, is it making any big inroads for you? Or I mean, obviously your industry is probably more comfortable and ahead of the game in terms of what it can do and how it works. I hope.
Y- And so, yeah, definitely. I think in some cases we're also probably more skeptical. We've been through the hype cycle of different technologies quite a lot, and obviously AI is right at the peak right now. It is. We are seeing some organizations make some great use of it. I think one of the things we're seeing is the generative AI, ChatGPT, etc., is great. Like, so people will have a bit of a play with it. They'll get some ideas, and there's certain tasks that it's really useful for in terms of if you just, you're kicking something new off, say you need to create a new agenda for a new series of meetings or that kind of thing is great, but it's quite limited, especially when people are having to break out of their day-to-day workflow, go off to a different tool, do something, come back. And so the next wave where you'll see the likes of Microsoft 365 Copilot is an AI tool built into customers 365 environment, and it's actually able to pull the data from within your system so that what it's generating has a whole load more context and more information. And rather than just kind of writing emails for you, kind of summarizing open actions from a whole bunch of different things, or helping pull out meaningful data out of different reports and so on. So I think the shift from yes, generating some content or helping with ideas through to actually starting to drive more insights and kind of not just make people more efficient, but help them sort of gain new information. And the whole predictive AI side of things, where if you're leveraging a CRM system or a database, that you're actually able to drive more insights out of those as well. I think people sort of will start to see some massive things. A couple of other things with AI. One is that most people are using it now without necessarily realizing it in terms of the way that, like you mentioned with the Google Nest and Siri, and like AI is just built into a whole bunch of platforms already. So there's a large amount of that that's already going on and will continue. And the kind of flip side, I suppose, is just being aware of the governance and the security and privacy risks that come along with it as well. So just making sure your teams are kind of educated and trained up into where the data is going if they enter it into particularly a third party chat platform, for example, that yeah, there's that awareness around what's happening with that information.
Yeah, you're right, because everywhere seemingly has got an AI thing now. Like there's just platforms left, right, and center where it's like, okay, there's an AI, there's an AI. Yeah, and I guess all those chat bots and helper bots and things, but even still, some of them are just bloody useless. But hey ho.
Yeah, there's definitely the old adage of shit in, shit out still applies. Like the yeah, yeah.
100%, 100%. So yeah, are you what is your take? You know, AI apocalypse. Are we going to become slaves to the robots one day? Are you down that line, or do you think
I
it's going to be
I tend
okay?
to be, yeah, I'm more of the eternal optimist, but I think when you look at who's in control of some of these platforms, that is, valid cause for concern. Not necessarily in the full Terminator style apocalypse, but more if you look at the way, for example, that generative AI is used today. Um, the Taylor Swift example where it's very quickly used in a really awful way, and the propensity for people to, whether it's intentionally or not, maximize short-term profit
Mm,
without necessarily thinking through the consequences. So I have, I suppose, more concern around what people will do with it than what the AI,
mm,
getting to that singularity point where the AI is in control of its own destiny.
yeah,
And I think ensuring that we're sort of not carried away so much by the hype cycle of it that we're not putting in place the training and education and governance around it, whether it's at an international level or right down to, individual companies and teams, but really understanding how we're driving value and benefiting from it versus, consolidating wealth or
mm.
driving more inequity through the people that are able to leverage these tools versus the people that aren't.
Because yeah, I mean, I think there's two parts to that for me. One is are we just sort of shadow projecting our darkest desires and fears that AI will take over and kill us? Does that say more about us and how we, see the world? But then in terms of what you're talking about regulation, you kind of go, great. So we've got either Sleepy Joe or Trump, Rishi Sunak, stroke Boris, and Chris Luxon locally as our guardians of what AI can or can't do. And you sort of go, well, you know, is the modern world equipped? I mean, I've got a free chat GPT account. That's pretty much my level of understanding of AI. I would imagine most people in the governance or governments of most countries probably can't spell chat GPT, let alone fully understand what it does. So how do you think we yeah, how do we manage this thing? Or is there, and I think the sort of democratization of it. I mean, yes, ChatGPT is free and everyone can use it, but one organization is getting access to all this data, presumably. And there's another like on the Elon side of things. I think there's a Russian billionaire who's trying to create like the first cyborg, and it's like it's one guy with one vision with the money dictating and deciding how that goes. And if he presumably if he wants to create a cyborg army, he can go and do that because it's private money. And if he wants to build that, he can go build it. So yeah, how do we keep on top of that, or can we keep on top of that?
Yeah, I think again it comes down to what the existing power structures are, and yeah, like you say, it doesn't inspire confidence with who we're seeing in there right now. Um, but also the kind of the education and understanding around what is happening out there, what are the tools, how do we protect? I think there's a really with the rise of deep fakes, so where you can essentially create video and audio of any person, recreate what they're saying. So where you have politicians potentially misrepresented or journalists, or I think there's a real need for us to be well protected in terms of the disinformation that comes with that. And I think where you see the undermining of traditional media and journalism and education in general, we're actually not in a great place. And so I think that's how you kind of shore up some of those defenses is by educating people and ensuring that we have the tools to understand, who ultimately is controlling that information, where it's coming from, what's true or verifiable versus not.
Mm.
And that's often one of the traps that people fall into a bit with the current chatbots and generative AI is that they'll give you really valid content back, but their job is not to return factual information. Their job is to return good, well-sounding information or
Mm.
interesting content, not necessarily true content. And so ensuring that people sort of understand their role in it is to fact check and validate and ensure that, they're actually paying attention to what is coming through. We can't be passive about that.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, isn't it? I think yeah, the word trust or truth is a word for the moment because I mean I remember at school studying history, being shown the picture. It was either Lenin or Stalin, and there was one picture that had Trotsky in it and one picture that didn't have Trotsky in it, and it's like the ability to doctor a photo in the 40s and 50s to spread false
Yeah.
news. We could do that, and so like you say now with deep fakes, he's sort of like, well, how do you even know that what you're? Yeah, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I think particularly for the kids. I think of my daughter. She's just in a digital world. It's
Yeah.
um. Whereas you sort of wonder, is the Encyclopedia Britannica going to have a comeback? It's like, no, this was written 20 years ago, so we know that this is the truth. It's like no one's got and we need to get 2 copies of the encyclopedia to check both, because it's unlikely that someone's gone around the world and deep faked every copy of the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
um
I
yeah,
think
it's a wacky time to be alive.
it is. And I think for like the organizations that we work with, um, there's that importance around brand and trust is so critical. And as we sort of go through this next wave, becomes even more important in terms of, like you say, if there is a deep fake out there, how do people get to the source of truth? And for whether it's brands or individuals, that's increasingly going to be important. Is how do I in terms of my online presence or information that's out there about us as a company, how do we ensure that the correct version is out there, or that there's a place that people can come to with that trust and understanding?
Yeah, I guess, is that going to be the billion-dollar industry, the people who, because it's almost like this is the Wild West, and there's people trying to sell you all sorts of gold panning equipment that may or may not actually help you find the gold. And it's kind of almost feels like the person who comes behind that and goes, no, that fake, 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 fake truth. That's going to be the
Yeah,
one that,
I certainly think, yeah, there's an opportunity there, and again, people will try and commercialize it,
yeah,
and so yeah, finding that
yeah.
balance will be
Would you like
interesting.
to, would you like to read the general news on Instagram, or would you like to read the news filtered by truth and untruth?
Yeah,
Yeah, just hit me with all of it. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
care. It's all it's
Well, I
all
mean, you get that a lot even today with the kind of, you'll be scrolling through one of our, local online newspapers, and then all the clickbait at the bottom, and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
most of that's not, you know.
yeah, not worth clicking.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time, I think. And I feel perhaps under equipped to fully understand it all. So Mike, don't let us down, please. I feel like it's all
No
on you.
pressure. Yeah.
So how did you get into the world of tech? Was young Mike pulling apart computers as a kid, or calculators, and like destined to be in computers? Or yeah, how did you get involved?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the plan originally. I studied geography and environmental science. I was interested in going out and saving the world. But then I graduated and couldn't get a job saving the world. So through I guess work and uni and that sort of thing, had definitely been using computers and gained a fair amount of knowledge through that process, and was able to get just an entry level position with an IT company that was then stepping stone to the next, and continue to learn on the job. So yeah, I'm gonna say 25 odd years later, it's making me feel old, but
Yeah, tell me about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a good journey. Yeah.
Nice. And so working for small, medium companies or large companies, just like through the journey, just sort of doing typical similar stuff to what you're offering now, or what was it like?
Yeah, real mix. So I started off working for IT companies that were then supporting local government and commercial companies. And then I moved to working for a media company within their IT team and then running their New Zealand IT operation. And so I spent, yeah, a good kind of 8 or 9 years running IT, internal IT teams and dev teams within that environment. And that was really when throughout that I sort of the 20-year kind of corporate IT career had tried to bring, I guess, my values through. So I'd be on the green team, I'd be sort of, doing what I could to influence where I could. But it always felt a bit out of balance. And so that opportunity to kind of step out and start my own thing was, yeah, really that ultimate chance to bring those two things together.
So what was the catalyst to go and start your own thing? Because it's not, it's not a necessarily a easy decision to make. There's the inherent risk of these guys. I do the same work today. These people pay me. Tomorrow I go out and I try and find some people who can pay me, and that may or may not happen. So yeah, what was the story behind that?
Yeah, I think the company I've been working for had decided to do some kind of large scale IT outsourcing. And that meant that I guess our ability in terms of how we manage the local team changed quite a lot. And the kind of the room for growth and the opportunity in terms of how we did that wasn't really there. And so I took that chance to go out and look for something new. And when I first started doing that, I did, my original intention was to go out and find another IT leadership position. But as I went out there, partly timing, like there just wasn't the right type of jobs out there at the time, but also when I was looking at those opportunities, the company I've been working for had an amazing culture, really good team. There were, lots of really fantastic things about it. And so I didn't feel like I was really transitioning to something that was going to be a step up in terms of not so much career, but the purpose and the experience and kind of the working life. And so I was like, well, do I really want to shift or do I want to actually change and really step things up? And so yeah, I thought, why not try and make a go of it myself? Crazy
Nice.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To anyone listening, don't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Think again.
Mike and I are both actually only 25. We just look like we're in our
Don't,
40s. Yeah.
yeah.
So what you just was it just you? You just started your like incorporated a company and just like ring
Pretty
some
much.
mates and
And
say, give
yeah,
me a job.
I was like, reach out to family and friends who needs IT help and really, started from the ground up. I was super lucky though, in I think it's probably the second year in, I was able to reach out to Andy Walsh, who was my sort of 2IC at the previous company and solution architect, and somehow convince him to move up from Wanaka to Auckland and join the mission. And so he's co-founder in the business, and we've been building it since then together, which has been
Oh,
fantastic.
you must be some sales guy. Hey, look, leave Paradise and Wanaka and come and hang out with me, where there's maybe some opportunities, but no
Yeah,
guaranteed income.
yeah,
Man, that's
precisely. Yeah.
either that or he's not a smart lad. But yeah, but no, that's super cool. And it was easy to get. You're getting enough business, so yeah. I mean, obviously you're still here.
It was a long journey. I think having a background as a technical person and an IT leader, things like sales were just a completely foreign concept to me. So I had to learn some pretty hard lessons in there.
Yeah.
I started out, I gained some customers, I went and solved all their problems, and then I was like, oh shit.
Now what? Yeah.
Now
Any more
what?
problems?
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely been a lot of those kinds of learnings on the journey for sure. But
Yeah.
it's been really rewarding as well.
Yeah. I mean, I am fundamentally unemployable, realistically. The idea of so I have to be here at 8 o'clock every day, regardless of what's happening in the world in my personal life. No, I'm not sure that's going to work for me, to be honest. Yeah, just that sort of stuff. Yeah. I mean, my dad was self-employed, so I think there was I guess an element of that as a reference point as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but no, yeah, the idea of yeah, I don't think like I said, anyone would hire me anyway. Not full time. I think they can handle me in small doses for a couple of months, and then yeah, let's get rid of him. Um, cool. So you sort of talked about, you sort of been values led, but and you want to sort of have that impact on the world. But yeah, is that something you've always had from day one? And was that like when you started the business? Was it like, okay, this is going to be a for purpose? Because and what year did you start the business? Sorry.
Would have been late 2016.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 2016. So I mean, yeah, back then there's still probably what, like, four B Corps. So yeah, was the intent to try and move into the sector of business for good, or to begin with, was it like, let's just start a business and just get some money and pay the bills?
Yeah, no, it was 100% to go in for good. It was way too hard to do otherwise. I think definitely easier ways to earn a living. And so yeah, right from the get-go, it was about, how do we actually kind of, yeah, live, you know, every day with that purpose in mind, and kind of see how we can scale that impact really, I suppose. And yeah, and that's what kind of led me down, obviously, the B Corp road, in terms of wanting to have a bit of a playbook or a framework for that. Having, obviously, I think a lot of people know the story of Patagonia and the whole ethos behind that, and similar organizations, and having that inspiration of, that it's possible, and not just possible, but commercially successful as well. And so that was really the idea that you could be true to your values, be doing awesome work, and be commercially successful, and then find ways to drive the positive impact. And I think for me, like, there's a lot messed up in the world, and we're actually pretty stuffed if we don't change how we're doing things. So I'm super, super motivated from the point of view of, um, I don't want to kind of get to a stage later in life where I'm like, or say to my kids, sorry, team, we fucked it up and we did nothing about it. That's not, the sort of legacy that I want to leave. And I don't think, most of the people in our space are really, we're not accepting the status quo. We need to drive things. And the more we do that as individuals and businesses, and as people engage in our democracy, the more kind of progress we'll see.
Nice, cool story. Um, and so when did B Corp pop up on the radar? Was that because 2016 you founded it? I met you 2018-ish. I think I'm pretty sure it was 2018.
Yeah, we
So
we
yeah, when
started working on it almost, like, I was aware of it pretty much straight away. And in fact, even I think within the first year of business, we started to look at it.
well,
And so there were only two of us when we kicked off the process. I think by the time we sort of certified, there were four of us in the team. But yeah, it was, yeah, right in. And I think the thing for me was, it's great if you walk around going, yeah, we're for purpose and we want to have an impact. But I wanted to be able to actually be able to back that up, be able to have that kind of sense checked or validated, in terms of it's not just warm and fuzzies, it's actually meaningful things that we're doing. And so the B Corp kind of having such a holistic framework, and an internationally recognized one, gave me the confidence. It's like, yep, we can actually stand behind this. We're not just waffling on about something warm and fuzzy. We're actually doing something about it.
yeah, 100% agree. Like, we always talk about how the framework gives you that operational. It's almost like the yin and the yang. It's like it's got the operational, the detail, the rational, the measurement, the scientific, almost of this is how we do it. But you kind of need that warm and fuzzy purpose, more esoteric, humane side of it, and you put the two together, you got something really cool. But if you have just one, either on their own is not enough, because if you, like I say, you got fluffiness and, well, we don't really know if we're doing anything, or you're doing things but possibly not with a lens of purpose on it. So yeah, sort of putting the two together. Do you remember
Yeah.
specifically where you heard of B Corp back in the day? Because back then, I mean,
Yeah,
there
I'm
was.
not.
I'm
It,
just,
it,
I'm just,
it
just
would.
curious, because I mean, there was fuck
Yeah,
all
I
going on
think
in
it.
terms of marketing. I
Yeah,
mean, there's not
totally.
much going on for marketing for B Corp beyond the community right now, but back then, man,
Yeah, it was literally around the likes of Patagonia and those other
right,
kind of
just seeing those
international
big brands.
organizations that were
Yeah,
that were going through it. Yeah. And I think the like looking at ways to think some of the things that I love about B Corp is that whole concept behind interdependence and working together. And I think for me, we're a tiny company in a tiny country down the bottom of the earth. To have that kind of meaningful impact, you can't ever do it on your own. So finding I guess a movement or a framework that has like you say, it's got the sense and the science and the methodology behind it, but it's also got a way to influence wider spread change and that understanding around how we can kind of scale that and actually drive systems change rather than just kind of tinkering around the edges with things. That was a big part of kind of committing to that B Corp process. I think the other thing was it was just massively useful as a small company to have that framework, especially around governance and how you look after your team and that sort of stuff was just an awesome playbook. When you're setting up a new company, it put us way ahead of where we would have been otherwise in terms of a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, just it's a great starting point if you're wanting to get on the because a lot of people go, oh, B Corp, wow, it's like this, oh, it's like this unattainable. There's so few of them. It's like because people don't think they can do it, but actually, if you just sit down and go through it,
Yeah,
as we keep
100%
saying,
achievable.
if you've got the mindset and the intent that you want to be a better business, you will make the changes that you need to make, and most of them aren't going to be structural changes to the business. They're just going to be implement, and like you say, particularly for sort of scale up businesses, we don't have any policies. Okay, well, this is a framework that will say, well, here are some ideas for some policies, and this is what it needs to include. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Too easy. Yeah. No, it's cool. And so you've done two certifications. So you certified initially. In what year did you first certify?
I think
20.
2020, I think I remember the actual certification coming through in the first lockdown in Auckland. It was
Oh
a
wow.
a, a, a nice highlight in the middle of a rather grim time. So that one stands out. Yeah.
Nice. And then so you recertified 2023. So just gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, it was I think the process for us, like the original certification was, it was an awesome process for a tiny team, relatively immature company, and still working through, a lot around we understood our approach to impact and what our model was. We didn't necessarily have all the things in place to measure and track and communicate that. And so in the intervening years, we've certified as a Toitū climate positive organization, which means putting a whole lot more robust process and measurement around our climate impact. And that, as well as the other work we've been doing, translated to a really increased B Corp score. And it's not about the points, which is really true, but it is about that continuous improvement and continuing to hold ourselves to a high standard. And so being able to see that, and especially for our team as well, to like have that recognition of, there's a lot of hard work that goes into the management and the tracking and the reporting, and being able to see at the end of the day that that's recognized and that pays off is really awesome.
Nice. And yeah, what were sort of any specific highlights of the either the first or the journey to date? Like was there anything, I guess, as a startup business, was there anything that we were, surprised by, or like, oh, we're kind of already thinking that way, or yeah, any sort of highlights or yeah, unexpected things that have popped up on the journey?
I think there's certainly as a company based in Aotearoa, you're sort of starting from a really awesome place already in terms of because it's an international framework and the labor laws in places like the US
Mm.
not fantastic. We're actually in a really good position already. So I think there was a really good side to we're already doing all the right things and able to do that. And like you say, a lot of it's just about documenting or ratifying the policy that you've already got, and kind of that whole process was good. I think there's always heaps to learn, so that was an awesome part of it as well. Is like, oh yeah, there's different ways to think about things, or yeah, driving some of that stuff through. Um, but I think yeah, probably just the way that you get benefit from putting those processes in place as we've grown as a company has been awesome. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's just a really cool framework. Yeah, to start building. It's like a scaffolding framework. Yeah, start
Yeah.
building a business around it and reap the benefits. Have you specifically found you've had any like when we're talking to people about potentially working with them on their B Corp journey, and the evidence and data is there that employee engagement, customer attraction, better investor relationships, even just if you're getting minor investment from the bank and better supply chain. So have you seen, like, do you have people knocking on your door saying, hey, I want to come and work for you? Have you, do you feel you've had a better revenue or better income from having been a B Corp?
Yeah, 100%. And like you say, it's on both the supply side and the customer side, and it's building as well. Like we've seen, particularly in the last 18 months, a real shift in the momentum in terms of the number of organizations, and because we're a business to business company ourselves, it's those commercial relationships that make all the difference. And I think the again, coming back to that principle of interdependence, it's the more that we work together, sharing values and working towards purpose, the more that momentum grows. And so whether it's banking with Kiwi Bank and getting more favorable interest rates because we're a B Corp, whether it's working with and gaining new customers, and so we work as both a customer and supplier with lots of other B Corps now. And so we've got fantastic clients like DNA and Good Sense and other people in the B Corp world. That just means that it's almost like um, you kind of leap over this whole initial trust, am I going to be able to work with them thing? And you're kind of short-circuiting all that and going, yep, oh, they're another B Corp. We know we're going to share values. We know that if we talk to them about something, they're going to understand what we're about. We know that they're likely to be easier to work with because they're going to take a longer term view on things. They're going to value the customer experience. They're going to value what their people experience day to day. That makes just a massive difference in terms of how we work and how we grow. It's been hugely positive, and that momentum is only building. Like it's like I say, in the last 18 months, it's come along massively, and you can see how that continues to step up.
Yeah, totally agree. Just I'm just having it well interviewing with someone just before this call, and we're just talking about the growth in the movement over the last 18 months to 3 years. It's just, I mean, it's still low numbers. I think we're at about 140, give or take, B Corps in New Zealand, and still just under 8,000 globally. So we're still, I say this pretty much every episode, we're still under 0.01% of the global business community as a B Corp. But then you look at some of the names on the list here and globally, and you go, this is a thing. Like, there are some
Yep.
names that people know. Whereas, like 8 years ago, it was like, who? I mean, I've never heard of any of these companies. It'd be interesting to sort of see which B Corp has had the most influence. So, like, you mentioned Patagonia. Patagonia's got to be right up there with a brand that most people around the world will have heard the name, in a developed world. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know which brand has had the most influence on growing the
Yeah.
movement over time. I'd say Patagonia must be right up there. Ben and Jerry's possibly, although in this region probably not so much because they don't have the B Corp stuff on their
Yeah.
brand over this side of the world because of licensing regulations, blah blah blah.
Probably
Yeah.
that grow good crowd, I reckon. Yeah.
Mate, we're trying. We've been trying for 8 years. If for the first, I don't know, five, it felt very much like just I'd get more from just banging my head against the wall. But I think, it's like the old Malcolm Gladwell, isn't it? The flywheel effect. You
Yeah.
just keep another drop of water, another drop of water. Yeah,
100%.
yeah. And so, um, what does being a B Corp mean to you now then? As a two-time B Corp as well.
Yeah, I think it is all about that collaboration. I think I remember listening to a talk a wee while back, and it described when you're an early adopter, particularly in the for purpose or sustainability space, you've got a lot of headwinds against you. You have to do more work for potentially less money, to kind of hold your ground, stay true to your values, report on what you're doing, audit what you're doing. Like there's a lot where we we're putting more on ourselves, I suppose, to take that leadership position. And what where I see it shifting is where it becomes more of a tailwind. So as we work together more, especially commercially, we are actually supporting each other. It's easier to do business. We're all more successful, and that builds that momentum. Like you say, it's a flywheel. It's changing it from being just a grind into actually every time we do it, we're gaining momentum. And that's super exciting. I think that shift is there. I think, you know, it's a real shame from a political standpoint that we're moving almost backwards at the moment, but that just drives more motivation for us as kind of more commercial organizations to step up and push change through. And working together, we can do that in ways that we just can't on our own. So that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think yeah, the government thing for me, that was a big moment for me when I sort of went down my rabbit hole of purpose discovery and trying to work out what's going on and how does the world actually work. I remember it would have been about 2014, 2015, maybe. I read an article in the Washington Post, and one of the professors from that part of the world had done a study of the influence of business on the political system in the US. And basically, the article was literally, your vote doesn't count. Like, does not matter who you vote in, because the lobbyists and big business will basically influence government to such an extent that it literally, your vote makes no difference. And so that for me was a real big piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And then the other thing I sort of put onto that as well is, initially, people go, oh, Barack Obama, oh, it's amazing. He was initially anti same-sex marriage, and it was only when it became a vote-winning issue that he flipped and went, okay, no, I'm gonna swap sides. And so, to me, this was the proof that actually, we have the power to dictate who serves us. Because if we create the environment and create the world and demand of government, this is what we want to look like, and ultimately we become the lobbyists and we become the influencers. That's how we will create the impact. So yeah, I 100% agree that business for good, and that's why I got so committed to the B Corp movement. It's like, this is the way that we will influence the most number of people the most quickly, is by proving that doing good works for everyone rather than the traditional way of doing it. So I'm going to try something really different here. We've never done this before. I'm going to share my screen on the podcast for the video, but because you mentioned something which there's a term for it, there's a model for it. So it's called the Dunphy model of adoption of sustainability. I don't know if you studied that in your thing. A good mate of mine, Tim Loftus, who was he was the brand manager at Kathmandu. He led Kathmandu on their sustainability journey, and he talked about how initially he was trying to create all these initiatives, making environmental change, and the senior leadership were just kind of like, yeah, we're just not that interested, to be honest. And it was only when he got to show them that there was a profitability and an efficiency gain that they suddenly went, oh, okay, we get it. And he tells a story about how he sat down with the CFO and the CEO and was like, hey, do you know how much we spend on lighting our stores every year? And they were like, no, not off the top of our heads. And he goes, well, I can tell you exactly. It's like, $1.4 million or whatever. And he's like, how would you like it if I could halve your spend on lighting, on the power bill? They're like, yep, well, we'd be interested. He goes, cool, they're called LEDs. And so, he got the environmental win of having a better or a less impactful product lighting their stores, but there was an operational win. And I think this is what we're seeing. I don't know if you saw at the end of last year, there was a report issued by B Lab on the financial performance of B Corps versus the evidence is there. Like, the long-term impact of B Corp is it's a net benefit. And even in I think it was out of 16 out of 18 reports that were reviewed, the short-term impact was either neutral or net positive on your income. So the whole, oh, this doing good costs us money, it's like, no, not doing good is going to cost you money. So yeah, I think we're at the tipping point, that's for sure. Exciting times. So what's so now that you've been running a B Corp now for a few years, do you have any challenges on balancing purpose and profit, or are you kind of way over that hump? I mean, because when you're starting out, it's kind of like any contract's a good contract to pay the mortgage, keep food coming for the kids and the wife. Yeah, have you had any moments of kind of like, don't really want to take their money, but I might have to, or has it been plain sailing?
Yeah, we've always been pretty clear on it. I think, like you say, definitely you have more choice as you mature as a business. but I'm someone that's pretty candid, and people know where I stand pretty quickly, and so that's it's never been too much of an issue for us. We certainly have had pretty clear ideas of kind of where some of those lines are of who we will and won't work for. We certainly, like I said earlier, we don't solely work with the for-purpose sector. We absolutely work with commercial companies, and they'll all have a different kind of range around, where impact or purpose and value sit within their organization. And that's totally fine. Everyone's kind of, there's lots of different motivators for people to be in business and to run companies. And I think for us, there are some, there are some clear things that we would or wouldn't do. And I think again, that's one of the values of B Corp is it kind of gives you that place to stand to go, oh, we can't do that. We're a B Corp. Yeah, it's just not, B Corp doesn't have necessarily hard and fast rules. But for us, it'd be like, if we did that, that'd just look wrong. So I think that's been a really key part of it. I think on the balancing side, one of the things has been the way we sort of manage the impact side of our business as we look at the way we run the company, the way we work in with our customers, so finding opportunities to drive positive impact through whether it's like proactive management of e-waste or automation or driving efficiency, using technology for that impact. And the third aspect is direct donations. So we donate 1% of our revenue to nonprofits, and then we donate pro bono time and discounted services. And what we did found was the balance around we're just doing too much, and so kind of keeping the balance between the pro bono time and discounts, like where that was going, and kind of keeping that focused in the areas that we wanted to see the impact in. So yeah, less about who we wouldn't or would or wouldn't work with. That's always been a part of how we've approached things, and more just balancing you need to be commercially successful in order to have impact. And so making sure that we're kind of keeping our eye on that and figuring out just the right ways to do that. And
Yeah.
that's always going to be an ongoing journey as well. We're never going to have it completely right, but we'll always have it as a focus.
And that's the key. There's been some really good examples of really socially led companies who have folded because they focus too much on the impact and not enough on the revenue. And it's a tricky balance. And I think that's you need to be in a position of being able to do the impact. It's better that you're a more financially sustainable outfit so that you can do more good over more time rather than a flash in the pan. Hey, look at us. We made a massive donation, or we did free work for the last 6 months. That's why we've got no money to pay you all. Yeah. Do you have I mean, I presume, do you have any tech or a system that you use something that you've created internally to measure that and track that?
Yeah, honestly, not the best, not the thing we're best at, ironically. But yeah, so we shifted to Salesforce for our CRM and service platform, and that was one of the key drivers was being able to do. There's a lot of tools out there designed specifically for IT companies to manage their professional services and tool sets, but they tend to be quite constrained in terms of the other things you can do with them. Whereas with Salesforce, having that ability to track different things, and so whether it's, for example, for our climate positive certification, we don't just track our internal footprint, we track and offset the carbon of every laptop or every piece of hardware we've sold. And so the ability to manage, what types of devices, how many that were sold, etc., managing all of that, and then looking at the carbon footprint, the EPIC rating, etc. That's still very much a work in progress, but that's the vision, is that all sits within one platform to enable us to track that. And obviously the kind of impact discounts and time that we provide to customers and the pro bono time in there as well.
Nice. Yeah, because I think that's one of the key things, isn't it? Is if if you're doing the good, you gotta track it so that you can report it for B Corp,
Yep.
if nothing else. Cool. So yeah, looking into the future, 10 years from now, what's that going to be? 2034. That's quite scary to think. Because 10 years seems like a long time, but it's going to go pretty quick. Yeah, what does the sort of the future of B Corp look like for you looking into the future?
I'm pretty excited about it, to be honest. I think there's obviously the changes in the standards for B Corp certification are in progress now, and I'm really excited to see that again, that standard constantly lifting in terms of what we're expecting from people. I think the momentum behind it, although as we've said, the political environment seems to be going in one direction, for most people, whether they're businesses or individuals, the drive towards purpose is really, really strong. And I think that more and more companies are understanding that they want to attract the best talent, if they want to have meaningful work for their employees, if they want to sort of drive that long-term sustainability and profitability, working for purpose and through, frameworks like B Corp are delivering all of those things. So I see it going really, really well. I think there's always threats around, what could derail that process, but the way that the momentum's building, and the motivation for people, yeah, pretty excited about it.
I agree. Yeah, just seeing the constant, and we're getting people reaching out to us from all sorts of industry groups that you kind of go, wow, you've heard of B Corp? Okay, well that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of companies that I've literally said to them, if I was going to write down my list of the top 1,000 companies that I thought who would ring me and say, yeah, we want to do B Corp, you would not probably be on the top 10,000, but you're here, and that's cool.
Yeah.
We'll have that conversation. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's definitely yeah, and I think every B Corp, particularly I mean, well, I guess all of them really, service companies like yours, as well as the consumer brands. That the more, it's just like as soon as another company joins, it's like, well, their ecosystem is now made aware of it, and people start connecting the dots, and it's like, oh, so that fix and fog in my fridge, that B thing, oh, and that guy Mike who we're just working with, he mentioned some B thing. Oh, well, okay, what is that thing? So yeah, I think there's a lot of little mini Patagonias now. All around the world, all having a bit of an influence on what's going on, and talking to their customers and supply chains and what have you. Yeah, it's super cool. So what are the big plans for Brightly? Anything on the impacts front, or just any big plans for the future for 20? We're early in the year in 2024, so new year, new you, vaguely still.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Look, I think a lot of it's more of the same in terms of, the what we've been doing, the way we've been working, has been working really well. We've been able to grow, without compromising our values, in fact, kind of reinforcing what we're doing and the way we're doing it. So it's more of the same, but more of it and better. I think we've got, work within our team around recruitment, training, development, building out it's always interesting as you grow, the challenge of communicating your strategy and your values, as the team grows, and ensuring that we've got that really well bedded in. So got quite a bit of work around that. And then with our customers, it's just awesome to see we're getting asked more and more around, okay, well, you've been working on this B Corp or this climate stuff. What does that look like? How can you help us? And so we're excited about doing more because, day to day, ultimately, we're helping people with technology challenges. We're helping them choose directions or drive change. We're helping them solve problems. And the kind of the ability to weave in more of that impact into their day-to-day work is, that's pretty exciting.
Nice. More of the same, just more. Why not? Good place to be. Um, Super cool. So for people who want to get hold of you, where do they go and find Brightly?
Brightly.nz on the website. We're on LinkedIn.
On the
I'm on there
interwebs.
plenty. Or give us a call. We're just based in Central Auckland. We work out of a co-working space at Grid KL. It's an awesome place if you're in town, if you're looking for a hot desk. Lots of good folks here too. Lots of other impact orgs around, so it's a good place to hang out. And yeah, give us a shout.
And you're also one of the B leaders for B Local Tamaki Makaurau. So I've mentioned B Locals before a couple of times, but B Locals are local events held regionally all around the world. So just Google Be Local and your nearest city or region, and hopefully one will come up. But yeah, Mike is one of the crew who runs the Be Local. So if you're B Corp curious, if you've listened to this episode or any others, and you're like, might want to go and check it out, but just on the download, then yeah, keep a lookout for Be Local events. There's Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch represented in New Zealand, and then there's a bunch in Aussie, the US, UK. They're all over the world. So yeah, if you're Be curious, yeah, get amongst it. Super cool, mate. Well, we'll leave you to it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your work. Keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing, and have a great weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. You too.
Catch you soon. Hey, it's Tim here, that B Corp bloke from Grow Good. If you want more content on purpose, B Corp, how to do more good in the world as an individual or a business, then you know the drill. Hit the like and subscribe. Check out some of our other videos. They're probably floating around here somewhere. You know how it works. Thank you so much. See you next time.